Hi guys, let's make a 3D s'mores snow globe. So I am going to explain my process the entire way. This is the very first time I've done this, so I'm really excited. So we're going to start out with chocolate Sculpey clay. This is oven baked clay. I got these molds off of Amazon. I will link them below. So I'm taking a little bit of my clay and rolling it in my hands to soften it up. And then I'm going to stick it right into the mold. It is super easy to work with. And this is just easy to get the chocolate shape. You could also sculpt this by yourself, but I don't think I am there yet, but I hope to be there one day. So I'm pressing it firmly into the chocolate mold, and I'm trying to make sure that the top is laid flat, and that's why I'm using my finger. And then all you have to do is peel back your mold, and you should have that shape. I use an X-Acto knife to trim any excess off of the side and shaped it a little bit in my hand. So now we're going in with tan. This is going to be for our graham cracker. I am making 2 s'mores. I only ended up using 1 s'more and a piece of chocolate, so you don't have to make 2 of these if you don't want to, but I figured if I wanted to make another snow globe, I would have another set ready. So this graham cracker mold was also off of Amazon. And once again, I am just rolling that clay in my hands to soften it up and pressing it into my mold. Honestly, this mold was pretty cheap and the results were amazing. I absolutely love the texture on it. And I was able to get 4 graham crackers out of this mold. So I just took my knife and I cut it into 4. And you'll see me do that in a little bit. So I'm firmly pressing it in there and trying to flatten it out, trying to fill all of the negative spaces with the clay so that I have a perfect graham cracker. Make sure if you have any questions to ask them below, and please like this video and subscribe and ask any questions if you have them. So now I'm taking my X-Acto knife and I am cutting it down the middle. And then I went ahead and cut that down the middle as well. I did not smooth out my edges because I wanted rough edges for a s'more. I just kind of patted it down a little bit to get any excess out, but I did not use any rubbing alcohol or anything to smooth it out. I actually tried to press the edges back into the mold to give it that graham cracker texture, and it worked really, really well. Sculpey clay is pretty easy to work with. I'm linking all the clay below because there are different brands. I got oven bake clay, but they have a lot of different types. So now I'm going in to make my marshmallow. So this is just white clay, and once again I am working it in my hands, and I actually ended up adding a little bit of tan clay to the white as well, just to tint it a little bit. I wanted it to keep that white color, but I felt as though for it to really look like a s'more, it needed like a really subtle tan color. You could also go in after it's baked and airbrush it. I personally did not want to break out my airbrush machine, but maybe I will do that later next week and make another video. So I'm just kind of forming it into a flatter square with curved edges. And this is me just putting my s'more together just to see how it'll look. And those are the results that I wanted. So I'm going to put this in my oven per the instructions on my packaging. I'm going to end up removing the chocolate a couple minutes sooner because the directions say 15 minutes per 1/4 of an inch, and obviously the chocolate pieces are much, much thinner than the rest. So just follow the temperatures and the directions on your packaging. And maybe get a thermometer for your oven to make sure that it is right. So while that's in the oven, we're going to work on our bamboo lid. We're going to remove that silicone piece, but save it for later. And I'm going in a cup. I'm out of small cups, so I have to use this giant one, of course, with PDB CREATIVE STUDIO UV resin. And I'm going to be mixing in hickory to that. That way we can go ahead and glitter our lid with UV resin and glitter at the same time. I love this glitter. It is perfect for the s'mores effect, and this is also what we're going to be using to fill our snow globe. So the lid and the snow globe will match. So I'm just spreading it around with a popsicle stick, and I'm making sure to get around all of the edges perfectly. Don't forget to use a torch to pop any bubbles, and just try and level it out the best that you can. I'm going to be using my UV lamp for 2 minutes to cure this UV resin. I will also link the UV lamp down below. But doing these lids is just a super easy way to add a little bit of pizzazz to your lid. You could also use epoxy if you wanted to. I just feel like using the UV resin I already have on hand is way easier, and it speeds up the process a ton. If you're using a different brand UV resin or a light with lower wattage, you might need to put this under your lamp for a few extra minutes. Just make sure it is not tacky when you're done. All right. So all of my clay pieces are cooled down, so I'm going in and adding a coat of UV resin to the top of each piece and curing that for 2 minutes. And now I'm going to put it together. So I'm adding UV resin to the bottom of one of the graham crackers, and I'm spreading it around with a paintbrush and attaching it to the lid. Once we cure this under the UV lamp, then it will not come off. Next, I'm doing the same exact thing to the marshmallow. You could also use super glue. I'm just using UV resin because I wanted all parts of my s'more to be fully sealed. So whether you're using UV resin or epoxy, just make sure you have it sealed. So now we're going to do the chocolate. And then I actually put this under my UV lamp before I put the top of the graham cracker because I wanted to make sure it was stable. So I figured if I cure these 3 parts first, then it would be easier to add that top graham cracker. So once again, 2 minutes should do the trick, but if you need to do longer, do longer. All right, so now we can add the top of the graham cracker. Once again, adding UV resin to the bottom of it. I couldn't decide which graham cracker piece I wanted to use, obviously. You could also use a gloved finger. I just got these cheap paintbrushes off of Amazon. I'll also link those below. I think it was like a Black Friday deal, but they come in handy, and I just kind of dispose them when I'm done with them. All right, so we're going to cure that under the lamp again for however many minutes it takes. And once it is all cured and dry, now I'm covering the entire s'more with UV resin. You just need a thin coat. Don't put too much because if you put too thick of a coat, it might like ooze down. All right, and then I cured that, and then I decided to cut this other chocolate bar I had in half just to add a little bit extra to my topper. So I started by UV resin that just to attach it at a slight angle, and I let that cure for 2 minutes, and then I went in again and covered the entire chocolate bar with UV resin. And that's what you're going to see me do here. I'm using a paintbrush just because it's easier to spread. And I'm making sure to get all of the edges, the top, the back, just make sure that entire clay piece is fully sealed. I literally cannot wait for you guys to see this. I think it was super easy. It's a fairly easy 3D project to start out with. I'm not really into sculpting yet. I was able to sculpt the donut in the last video, and then the marshmallow was easy, but I haven't done anything other than that. So if you're new, don't be scared to use some molds. It's really good practice for clay. All right, so after this is taking me longer than expected, I should have sped this part up, but we are going to roll with it. I'm still learning. Slight pause because I have nothing else to say at the moment. All right, so I cured that. Let's get started on our snow globe. This is the 15-ounce snow globe from Mother Tumbler. I am just putting a piece of tape along the rim, and that's going to make it a little less messy, although I always tend to make a mess anyways. You're going to want more of a chunky mix for the inside of your snow globe. If you have something with a lot of fine, it tends to clump up easier. So I fill up my snow globe about a quarter of the way with glitter. I don't think you need any more than that, but measure with your heart. We always measure with our heart around here. So after I fill that up, I will remove the tape and kind of shake off and wipe off any excess glitter that I have, and that's what you're seeing me do here. And then I'm going to go with my solution. We're using half vegetable glycerin, half distilled water. I will link the glycerin below, and we are filling it up about 3/4 of the way, and then I stop and I plug the hole with my finger and I shake it up really, really well. Because a lot of that glitter on the bottom I feel like tends to stick initially, so we want to shake it all up so that we are sure that we can fill up our snow globe all of the way. As you can see, I have that part right there that I need to really break up. After you get that all broken up, you can go ahead and fill the rest of your snow globe with your solution. I don't like to leave a huge gap, but I leave about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of empty space at the top of my snow globe, and I think that just helps everything flow better. So now I'm taking my ryobi hot glue gun and plugging that hole. Make sure not to plug it a lot because you don't want it to perform an arch over it so that your snow globe is uneven. So now we're going in with PDB Creative Studio UV resin to really seal in the bottom of that snow globe and make sure it is smooth. So I do that for about 2 to 3 minutes. You could also plug your hole with, you know, those glue dots, maybe UV resin. I just like to use the hot glue. It's easier for me. So after I cure that, I'm going to add these black bumpers. I put these on almost every snow globe because these are glass. So if somebody tends to slam down their cup, this will just try and help protect it a little more. All right, so now let's shake our snow globe and put the topper on. Literally, this was so fun to make. I did this all within about an hour and a half this morning. Don't forget to put your silicone piece back into your lid. That part can be annoying, but I did figure it out. All right, guys, and it is done. Let's take it outside and see what it looks like. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget